Hello, welcome back, or just greetings. So, let's just skip it with formalities and get right to, not back because we haven't been here before, to the topic of this video. So, actually, I think there's different reasons depending on what situation you are, and recently I did my first solo trip. So I just unconsciously or unconsciously kind of sense that something is going on. Like, I'm in a country where I know no one. I'm in a city where no one. There are people speaking foreign languages everywhere. There are so many tourists. There are people doing crazy things. Why should I stop myself from being authentically me? And there's situations where you're just like walking around and you will never see these people again, and where you are kind of not imprisoned, but you're supposed to be with these people for that amount of time. For example, maybe you're in a hostel and you have to see the people, or maybe you're in a hotel and you see the receptionist every day, and you cannot just do some crazy things like that you think are crazy. For example, maybe you want to film something on your back camera just standing like this, but you will see these people for the next 7 days of your stay, and you're just like, no, I need them to have better opinion of me, and I divided this into categories, as you can see. So the first one, why I think we feel like we need to perform for people we don't know, like just strangers. Maybe in the cafe, you like sitting in the cafe and you have this urge to take out your phone and film something and talk to your phone and say, oh, this food is amazing, I love it. The reason why I could hold yourself back is because the perception that we have of ourselves. And now that I'm thinking about this, I think all the things that I wrote down could basically be for both of these situations that I earlier just divided. But the perception that we have of ourselves. There's this thing, if, for example, you want to start running, you should associate yourself with runner. So you're not just someone who picks up running and just like, you are a runner. It's easier to do something when you kind of make yourself into a verb rather than a noun. And I think in this case, it's very similar to this, because if you think, for example, you wanted to, I don't know, make a cute little video out of your trip. I'm just talking about trip because I've been on a trip and I just, the only thing that I can think of is this. And you just wanted to make like a cute little video of your trip, But in your mind, you're not a person who makes movies. In your mind, you're just accountant who goes to work on Monday to Friday, who has some friends who doesn't do crazy things. They don't dress crazy. They, have a couple of hobbies. They do this. You have a perception of yourself. I think everyone could answer the question, how would you describe yourself? Like, if I came up to you and told you to describe to me your best friend, you would know how to describe her or him. The same kind of is true to us. We have some kind of idea of ourselves in our mind that could be like contradictory to the idea that other people have, but since we spend 24 hours in our mind with ourselves, our idea of ourselves, I think, not mostly, like, it is most true. And let's just take out of the equation that we are very strict to ourselves, and that we sometimes too strict on ourselves, and that could not be true. Like, it could be false. But the thing I'm trying to say here is we have a description for ourselves in our mind. And if, for example, you are a YouTuber and you're making money with making videos and like making videos of different food that you tasted in different cities, and that's not your first time doing it, and you know that this is your job, you have to do this, and you've done this a lot of times. Not necessarily this, but like the fact that you associate yourself with that, it's easier, I think, much easier for you to do that, for you to just be like, oh, that's what I do. I film videos. I film food. But when your perception of yourself is not that, it's very hard to get out of your own cage. You won't really think much of a person who's filming, you'll just think, oh, another person who is content creator or like, cannot eat, cannot. Okay, I think by telling all these things, I'm kind of exposing what I think, and I don't think that, but that's like I'm jiving what a person could think from like a negative point of view. So it could be something like this. Yeah, let's move on. And I think this is true for both of the cases. It's either the people you just met and you will never meet again, like an elevator, or people at the reception, or the hostel you're staying in, or maybe you picked up a hobby and you went surfing and you have the same team for a week and you have to see the same people. That's true. You have a perception of yourself and you keeping true to that perception. That's why you are not going out there and not being like a crazy, totally new person. As they say, you cannot run away from your problems. You could go to the other side of the world, or the continent, as I did, and you're just the same. Like nothing changes. Maybe you don't have this societal pressures anymore, and it's like the most free you'll ever feel. In terms of there's no people there are no people that know you. There's a complete freedom to be whoever you want. Do you want to be a lawyer? You can tell people you're a lawyer. You can watch Suits and get enough for terminology to kind of like throw it into conversation that you like a lawyer. You can be anything. The freedom that you have is as freeing as you're gonna get. So, in that case. The second one is that we are wired to seek approval. From a long, long time ago, we just needed people to survive. Like there was nothing. We even if we take evolution out of the equation, which I don't think we could. Also, like I've heard some contradictory things that some people think that like if you're a Christian, you cannot really believe in evolution, but we seek an approval, and I don't know. I haven't really dove deep into this topic of evolution and Christianity, but I'm prone to believe that evolution has something to do that the people didn't just like rose up and they just like we don't really care about opinions of everyone else. We just will do our own thing. No, even if evolution is not true, you had to have connections. Nevertheless, I'll tell it from evolutionary point of view. We had to have people in order to survive, in order to eat, in order to be saved from a large beast. We needed people for basically everything. And if someone didn't like us, that would be bad, because that person could be great in making weapons, and then he's like, Josh doesn't like you, and he gives you the least sharp weapon there is, just because he doesn't like you, and then your chance of survival kind of downfall from that, because you went on the hunt and you didn't kill the beast kill you, and you're just like, oh, that's because Josh didn't like me. So that was very dangerous when someone didn't like you. Right now, our brain kind of makes it very dangerous. I don't think there's anything. I think there are a lot of people that don't like me. I wouldn't say I don't like a lot of people. I don't even know who I don't like. It's just I'm pretty neutral to people. But if there are people who don't like me, that's fine. That's totally fine. I'm okay with that. And I think on the trip itself, there were a lot of people who didn't like me. There were people who irritated me. I wouldn't say that I didn't like them, but maybe that's like falls in the same category. And I was just like, dudes, stop talking. It's 12 p.m. Just please, just you irritate. I don't like you. Maybe yeah. There were people that I didn't like. So someone will not like me. They could come up to me and tell me like, oh, please don't do this because it irritates me, or they could look at me a certain way. But what would they change? Will my chance of survival lower? Nope. Do these people help me to earn money, to make a living, to do all these things? No, they're not. Will I not get safely home if they will not like me? No. I'm paying for my taxi out to airport, for my plane from one airport to another, for my way home, for the food I eat. Their likability of me does nothing on my life. Like, sure, yeah, my ego would be thrilled if, all people would just stand in line and be like, oh, you're so amazing, we're happy to see you, wow, you're so great, you're so smart. Sure, but if that doesn't happen, I will wake up like every other day and I will be fine. And like, I will lose absolutely nothing in either situation, because I've been to Lisbon for a week. No, I've been in Lisbon for 2 weeks. I've been in Portugal for 2 weeks. For first 3 days, I was in Lisbon. Then I went to Costa de Caparica to surf camp, where I had to be with same people in surfing camp. And then I came back again to Lisbon. So what I can say about the freedom you feel when you're just walking alone in Lisbon, when you just come back and see the same people on reception who actually do like you, and we talked with them and I was so happy to see them, but for some reason I could not take out my phone and film something with them. That was weird, like, because I don't have the perception of my head as like someone who films video. When I was like, in a historical place where everyone was filming, I'm like, yes, this is the time. I'm gonna put out my phone and film this as well. This is like a disease or something. You see some people like this is okay, like more than a couple of people do this, great. Actually, yeah, I was staying in a hostel, and we had under the sink like a I don't even know how to say this. It wasn't a bin, it was just like a basket, but it was a very beautiful basket. I think it was handmade. It was from hay, I think. Yeah. Um and like when I wash hands, and there's a trash bin near the toilet, but when I wash hands and I take these paper towels, it's hard to put it in like a little trash bin. But I didn't put it in that basket. Then the next day I come back and someone did just put those towels in that basket, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do that too. Or for example, it could be like in camps when I was a child, always like when I would wash my socks, because most of the camps that I visited were in forest, and my socks would be just like, oh god, they would be so black and dusty, and I always seem not to bring enough socks or wear too many pairs of socks in one day. Doesn't matter. And there were places where you could dry, like hang to dry your clothes, but no one used it, so neither did I. And then someone did, and I also put all my clothes and everything that I was like, gathering, and I'm like, that is very interesting. How did I get to that? Okay, we seek approval. We Because of the reasons of whether evolutionary or not, we just seek approval from people. Um, that one is interesting because um yeah, maybe this one will skip and I'll go like later. mm, I think this one kind of correlates with the previous one, fear of judgment, which I said leaps from the need to be accepted and liked by everyone. So because we're wired, like the two basic needs of human beings are to be accepted and to be one of them is to be accepted. Okay. uh, okay, let's not take into consideration that my memory is getting worse. Yeah, so fear of judgment leaps from that need to be accepted and liked by everyone, even though logically a person could understand that this is not possible. Like, I could not like everyone, no, not everyone can like me. But when we actively see that a person doesn't like us, we're just like, I should do something, shouldn't I? Like when I was in that camp, I mostly I would just like work and like in free time, because honestly I couldn't bring myself to socialize with that amount of people, and there were like the my schedule was already pre-made for me, so there were all the social activities my schedule was formed around, and I'm just like, what is this? Is it hell on earth? Because I can't take that much socialization. And when everyone does, and when everyone see each other on these volleyball tournaments, on these ping pong tournaments, on night out to Lisbon and all these things, and I'm not there, it's very easy to feel excluded because people have already their like um, inner jokes, things to talk about, and I'm still on small talk level with them because the only time I see them is dinner and maybe surfing lessons. That's all. That's all and around the house. Yeah. If we live in the same house, because there are multiple houses. And I just said, I remember maybe like third day I wanted to cry, like how excluded I feel, and then I'm like, but I wouldn't change anything. I don't want to come up to them and to just like, if I were to force myself to talk to them, it would take so much energy out of me, honestly. I don't know. I tried to, like, once. I'm like, let's do this for the heck of it. Come on, let's go. And then I realized, no, that is not something I could do. I could whip up a conversation with anyone one on one, but to try to do this in a group setting, it's a torture to me. You know, if a person is not interested in conversation, I cannot really help you. I'm not that good conversationalist. It's supposed to be mutual. I want to talk to you, you want to talk to me. If I'm trying to talk to you on the deep stuff and you trying to tell me that, you know, some superficial stuff, I wanted to give an example, but I don't, and I'm just like trying to get deep and you're just on superficial stuff, then my needs are not met and I'm mad. My needs are not met and I'm mad. Yes. So, that could happen. But let's move on. This one is actually very interesting because we also tend to fill the blanks. Um, yeah. So, we barely know people. Like on solo traveling, I barely knew any people. Like, for example, on the reception, I knew their job. I knew what they are doing. I knew their name. Maybe after a couple of conversations, I knew what they were studying. This, and that. But didn't know much, And because of this, our brain makes up positive stories about them and what they want. You know, maybe like this person looks so great, they're so neat, they're great waiter. I think it would be weird to film something like around them. I think if he wouldn't be standing there, I would film something. So we perform to match up these made up expectations. Because you cannot tell me that's not true. That is so true. Like, there was a person, I think, in camp as well. That was weird. That was so weird because people would come and go for a day and two, and I would just like, oh, how are you? We would be such a good buddies, and then they would just leave, and I'm like, I just spent all this energy to make a friend that would just leave tomorrow. Okay, no, that was great. Actually, making connections with people was great. It's just my sick and twisted expectations that I'll have someone to talk and rely to for the whole week. Well, they were ruined. I just had myself to rely on and God. Should have relied more on God and spent time more with Him, but that's beside the point. No, actually, it is the point. Doesn't okay, yeah. So, there was a guy. Like I think we we allow ourselves to act the way we want basing on the stories of other people. So, for example, there was a guy who didn't drink, and I felt okay saying when I found out that I don't drink because there's someone else. Or, for example, that I'm vegan when I found out that there's another girl who's vegan, It just makes it easier. It facilitates things. Was also a guy who was a content creator and he would just film stuff all the time. And I would just feel comfortable around that person to film some stuff, And that is weird because we just make these, stories in our mind, and we think that no, these people are this and this and this, and they would think this and this and this, and so we should satisfy this and this and this desire. So this is very weird. But humans, yeah. Um, and I think we also seek from people something that we cannot find within ourselves. So, for example, and if I'm very critical to myself, and I do not accept myself, and if I'm in constant battle with myself, um, and I used to seek validation from external sources such as other people or my work, admiration for my work, comments to my work, etc. I would be prone now to search for this validation from someone else. Because I'm not surrounded by people I know, I will be searching for this validation from just people. Just people who surround me, even the people who I don't know, the people who I barely know, but I want them to validate me because I have put it and I have always done it that way that it's not my job. Like, other people should validate me, other people should tell me what to do, this and this and this and this. And when I'm in unknown settings, I know no one, I'm trying to get validation from someone. That's why people show off. That's why, you could be in a group of people and there will be a person who can play a lot of instruments and sing and do this and this and this and this, but you'll never know. And if there is a person who knows a couple of chords on guitar, and he will not let it pass by anyone. No, 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 no. Everyone will know that this guy, when he was in the third grade, he went to the guitar practice that he didn't want to go to, and his parents forced him to. And he did it for 3 years. He quit in sixth grade. And he knows a couple of chords, so he can play a couple of songs. It's because we search value within people. That's why some people, for example, if a person struggles with something, if they have insecurity, if they have depression, anxiety, some other disorders that are connected to the mind and the way they perceive themselves, they could show off in a way of dressing nicely because it helps them to feel more valuable. So, they think that perception of like the people will perceive them in a better way if they dress in a better way, uh, or for example, mm, you of course can also see people who will not even care how they look like, for also for that struggle with some like anxiety or depression disorder. So it really, uh, depends on the person, but it could also be a way to hide these insecurities. Sometimes you just don't have the strength to hide these insecurities, so you don't really care. Sometimes, like on Sunday, I noticed that I just like put my hair in the bun, and it was a horrendous bun. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't like in movies that you just like tilt your head, you do a bun, and it's perfect. No, it was horrendous, and I'm like, I don't really care. Like I went like I looked at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, I can go like this to the restaurant. I don't really care. And then it took myself a couple of seconds. I'm like, no, but there are people. I should, redo this to a little nicer, you know. But it was nicer, but it wasn't that good. But, I still had to, kind of be my own mediator and tell myself, no, 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 you should change it. You should change it because there will be people. There will be people. Even though I didn't care even about that. I sometimes even like when I walk with my dog, I take a mug. This is a glass, but I like take a mug and I just drink tea. I don't know why people don't do this. Where I'm from, people don't do this, and this is weird. But like and I'm just like I don't really care. Thankfully, there was a time when I did, but I had to work so much. I had to write like 3 journals fully with uh, journal prompts to kind of figure out that I should value my own opinion. I should value God's opinion and my own, and put it first rather than someone else's. And the one that I skipped is that oh, actually, the ones that I skipped, I talked about. Sometimes people show off to hide their insecurities to feel better. Yeah. So here's that. Here's a couple of reasons why we try to perform and act in a certain way to people we barely know. Hopefully this video was like useful to you. Yeah, because my camera is already overheating. So have an amazing evening, day, life, summer, and I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully, if I'll make it. Yeah, not if I will live until then. It's just like if I'll actually make the video. Yeah, I'll give you a hug and I'll tell you goodbye. If you don't like hugs, please just turn it off now. I don't actually love hugs either. It's a cool thing. Come here. Yeah. Bye.